Yes, student, wish you all very good day to you. So we are coming to the session number 1, subject International Finance, coming under the code COM 4341. So last week, if I recalling some important points, what we discussed in session number 1, in the session number 1, we identified what is the basic idea behind international finance. And in that session, we basically discuss as a undergraduate who are following management discipline degree program, why it is required for you to study the international finance as a core subject in your degree program. So then we will understand some sort of differences between domestic finance and international finance. And we identify the importance role played by multinational enterprises when discussing the importance of international finance. Likewise, we discuss so far are the basics behind the international finance subject. So today onwards, in our future sessions, we are going to discuss in depth regarding the key concepts or key aspects behind the international finance. Among the key aspects, one of the main topic behind the international finance is exchange rate, foreign exchange rate. So without knowing what is the meaning of this, and without knowing how it is determining, without knowing how it is equilibrate and so on, it is very difficult for us to discuss the theoretical approach behind the international finance and how countries are manage these international finance related issues, and how country can balance over their import and export, so on. We cannot having very healthy dialogue if we don't know the description or explanation behind foreign exchange rate. Therefore, we are going to start the discussion on international finance while knowing what is the meaning of and what are the important aspects we need to know under the foreign exchange rate. So welcome you all to the session number 2 in international finance subject, that is foreign exchange rate. As I mentioned you in your introductory section, it is required, it is must for all of you to follow the relevant chapter in your recommended textbook while you are referring this video sessions. Since we all are in online platform, and it is your responsibility, and you all also have a time, required time to refer the relevant chapter and having your own lecture note with your convenient way. Therefore, please refer chapter 2 in your recommended textbook. That chapter 2 is basically discuss about more detail what we discuss in today's session number 2. Right. Let's move into the session objective, what we are going to cover up to the session number 2. So in here, we try to explain the concept of foreign exchange rates. And here we identify different type of quotations used to express the exchange rates. And then we are going to find out what are the determinants that decide or that construct the exchange rate. And finally, we are going to calculate the currency appreciation and depreciation, as well as we also concerned about the anticipation of foreign currency appreciation and currency depreciation. So those are the main key things we are going to cover up during this session number 2. Right. So then let's talk about, first of all, what we identified as foreign exchange rate. Okay. So basically, what we know about exchange rate, like we forget about the foreign term in here. What we meaning of exchange rate? That means we try to take something by giving another thing. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් හෝමාරුවක් කියලා කියන්නේ නේ දෙයක් අරගෙන තව දෙයක් දෙනවා. And if you want to buy a 1 kilo of dal, you have to pay in price, right? So that price we decide as our exchange rate, right? So you pay in price. Either you can pay it as money, or you can exchange in terms of other good, right? You can buy a 1 kilo of dal, and then you can exchange it to what we can exchange now. 1 kilo of dal also having around 400 rupees per kilo, no? So then you can exchange something that equal to the amount, or you can pay it in money and take it to a 1 kilo of dal. So that is we call in normal exchange. In here, what do you mean by foreign exchange rate? Now here what we are dealing is, in the foreign exchange rate, we buy or we transfer one currency. That means we are taking one currency while paying another currency. And now, normally this is a very debatable issue right now in the country. Therefore, you know exactly what is the meaning of this exchange rate. Okay, so it is basically the price of one currency we are going to express in terms of another currency. Now, these days, the US dollar is equal to Sri Lankan rupee 340 or about 340, right? So then we express the price of dollar in terms of Sri Lankan rupee. So that is what we simply call foreign exchange rate. Okay, then the foreign exchange rate and foreign exchange quotation, what we are looking is, that is a statement normally authorized party going to be released regarding the rate in between buying and selling of particular currency. Now remember, foreign exchange rate is the price we are going to express the one currency value in terms of another currency. Like US dollar is equal to Sri Lankan rupee 340. That is exchange rate. Then what do we mean by the foreign exchange quotation, or we call foreign exchange quote? That is the statement that relevant authority party, for an example, Sri Lanka Central Bank of Sri Lanka or commercial banks in Sri Lanka. That is the statement issued or released by that relevant authority party by indicating the buying and selling rate of particular currencies. Now, if you look at now day-to-day announcement issued by the central bank, normally central bank issued that foreign exchange quotation every day. So based on that, the commercial bank decide their foreign exchange quotation. So that quotation indicate what is the price or what is the rate that bank willing to buy foreign currency, as well as what is the price, so what is the rate that bank is willing to sell. Right. So normally selling rate is higher than the buying rate. Normally we know when we are trying to buy something, we try to take it as a cheaper price. But when we are going to sell something, we try to sell it at a maximum price. Therefore, buying rate in a particular authorized bank is lower, but selling rate is normally high. So buying means they are taking money from the customers or outside parties. In here, selling means the bank sell currency to the third party. So in a customer perspective, the buying rate of the bank is the customer's selling rate. And the selling rate of the bank in a customer perspective, that is the buying rate. Okay, so that is a difference between buying and selling rate of the bank as well as the buying and selling rate of the general customer. Right? That's why when we are trying to buy dollars, in our aspect, it is high. Right? Then in a bank aspect, the selling price is high. So that is what we call foreign exchange quotation. So when the particular authority banks or authority institution issue the quotation, so it gives some traditional currencies, right? It gives more weight to the well-recognized currencies like US dollar, euro, British pound, Japanese yen, etc. Now, if you go and check the central bank website, it's display most well-recognized trading currencies like US dollar, Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, and British pound, Australian dollar, etc. Right? So that's what we call foreign exchange quotation. Right. So based on the quote, we can identify two different types of quotations. That means the buying and selling rates, we can identify it as two different forms. Those are known forms in international finance. First one, we call it as a direct exchange rate or direct quotation. And the second one, we call it as indirect exchange rate or indirect quotation. Let's look at what is the meaning of direct quotation or direct exchange rate. Now, direct mean in here, the price of foreign currency, the price of a foreign currency. That means the price of 1 unit of foreign currency, we are going to express as units of domestic currency. Right? So that's what we call in here the direct exchange rate. Here what we are going to do is price of a foreign currency, or we call it as a unit of foreign currency. A unit, 1 unit of foreign currency, we are trying to express as in terms of domestic currencies. Right? So normally direct quotation, we express the price of a unit of foreign currency in terms of domestic currencies. Right? So it expresses the price of 1 unit of foreign currency in terms of domestic currencies. Now, for an example, if you look at the Sri Lankan exchange rate quotation, it's normally give US dollar equals 334.47 Sri Lankan rupees. Now, LKR is our common symbol using in our currency, right? That is a way the central bank announced the foreign exchange quotation. So that's we call direct exchange rate. Okay. Now, either the quotation is direct or indirect, it is depend on what is your home currency. Right? Now, for an example, now Sri Lankan rupee, that means LKR is our home currency. Then if you are going to express the 1 unit of US dollar in terms of Sri Lankan rupee with the aspect of Sri Lankan perspective, that is the direct quotation. That is a direct exchange rate. Okay. But if you look at in the other aspect, that means if you look at the US citizen aspect, so then in the US citizen aspect, that is not the direct quotation. Right? That's what we identified as indirect quotation in that case. Okay. So then what do you call indirect exchange rate? Indirect exchange rate means express the amount of foreign currency requires to buy or sell 1 unit of domestic currency. Right? Now, for an example, if I write it in here very precisely, now assuming that the Sri Lankan customer perspective, what we see this as, now for an example, $1, we call $1, layman world we like, right? $1 is equal to Sri Lankan rupee 334, right? That is the Sri Lankan perspective. If it is Sri Lankan perspective, then this is called direct quotation. But if you look at in the US citizen perspective, this is, if you look at this as a US citizen perspective, right? I'm taking same thing, US dollar equal rupees 304. Now what is this? In the US citizens, his or her home currency is dollar, right? So it expressed the amount of foreign currency required to buy or sell 1 unit of domestic currency. Right? Now, US citizens, now this is his or her foreign currency, and this is his or her home currency. Now, in a Sri Lankan customer perspective, this is the foreign currency for us, and this is our home currency. Okay, so then if it is a US citizen perspective, now this is not a direct quotation to them. Okay, therefore understanding that where we look at the currency as a home currency and foreign currency, the way it expressing, it's based on, it can be differ between direct quotation and indirect quotation. Okay, now look at this indirect one. Here we can take the example. The Sri Lankan rupee is now equal to 0.0029 per US dollar. Right? So if you consider it as a gain, right? Earlier what we call as a direct quotation or direct foreign exchange rate, $1 equal to Sri Lankan rupee 334. That is a direct. And what we call it as indirect. So indirect quotation is now 1 rupee equal to how much? How we get the price? So now we have to take the calculation 1 divided by 334. That is equal to how much? $0.0029. You see how is the Sri Lankan rupee value getting declined, right? In $1, we will get Sri Lankan rupee 0.0029. Can right? සත රුපියල් දශම බිඳුවයි ඩොලර් දශම බිඳුවයි බිඳුවයි දෙකයි නමයක් තමයි අපේ රුපියලට ඩොලර්ස් හම්බෙන්නේ. So there is no value. That's you can see. We don't have a value to our domestic currency when we compare it with foreign currency. Right? So how we get the direct quotation and indirect quotation? Based on the home currency perspective, right? When we are expressing unit of foreign currency in terms of domestic currency, so that's what we call direct quotation. Where with the aspect of the home currency, when we are expressing 1 unit of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency, that's what we call it as indirect quotation. Okay, so that's the way. So in direct quotation also, we identified as a price quotation as well as a European quotation. Right. So these are the synonyms of direct quotations. Right. Price quotation and European quotation. In some terms, you might not be getting the term as a direct exchange rate. Sometimes in some financial journals, some financial review articles, they are using as a price quotation or European quotation. Then as a student who are following the foreign international finance subject, you know that the price quotation and European quotations are representing the terms of direct exchange rate. And indirect exchange rate also identified as quantity quotation and American quotation. Okay, so normally direct and indirect are the well-known way to express, but sometimes some financial terms they are using, some financial aspect they are using European term and American term. That's also they call it European term exchange rate and American term exchange rate. If it is a European term, that is we call direct exchange rate. If it is American term, that we should need to identify, it is the indirect exchange rate. Okay, so those are the well-known types that exchange rate can be quoted. We call direct and indirect. Right. So let's moving on few example as I mentioned you. Right. So this is the way we identified as a direct and indirect. Now, first one, it is a direct exchange rate between dollar to Sri Lankan rupee, and other thing is dollar to pound. This is UK pound symbol. And as I mentioned you in our first session, please try to familiarize with the currency symbols, currency coding and currency symbols, because it is very important as a student who are following international finance. And other thing is you need to specifically know the way we are writing exchange rates. Then api mama issala ඔයගොල්ලන්ට උදාහරණ ලිව්වේ $1 equal to rupees 334. That is for my explanation purpose. But remember, in international finance, when we are writing the foreign exchange quotation, there is a style, right? There is a pattern. Or else you cannot write something like this. Rupees 334 equal $1. Yes, the dollar sign. $1. Right? This is not the way we are expressing quotation. This is a way we explain the foreign exchange rate. That means we can express it as $1 equal rupee 334 or 334 rupees are equal dollar. But when we are writing exchange rates, right? Please follow this format. Please follow this format. How it is writing? So your domestic currency has to become first with its value and take a dash, and you representing what is the foreign currency unit. Right? I'm referring direct exchange rate. Okay, direct exchange rate first. Now this is for the direct. Now this is for the direct. Here what we identify is indirect, right? Now this is your right hand side symbol. Your right hand side symbol always representing per unit, right? In the direct exchange rate, the right hand side always representing per unit of foreign currency, a unit of foreign currency. For the direct exchange rate, your right hand side has to be representing a unit of foreign currency. When we are writing the exchange rate, always remember in your right hand side representing a unit. Express value. Right? So always remember, don't forget this. This is your right hand side. your right hand side always representing a unit of currency. It might be foreign or it might be other, depending on direct or indirect. Your right hand side representing a unit, right? Left hand side representing the values. Okay, so that is a direct. Okay, then let's look at the indirect. Indirect exchange rate, what we are seeing. What we identified as the indirect exchange rate. Indirect exchange rate mean we expressing the exchange rate, or we are saying the amount of foreign currencies we can obtain per unit of domestic currency. Then remember, in your right hand side, it has to be your domestic currency unit, right? So it is something like that, $0.0029 dash. Now rupees, or we normally, in here we are taking rupees, but you can use LKR also, right? $0.00229 dash LKR, right? That's also you can express. But the point is always remember, right? Point is always remember, right hand side representing a unit of currency. In a direct exchange rate, right hand side representing a unit of foreign currency. Indirect exchange rate, right hand side value representing a unit of domestic currency, right? There is a difference between the way of writing exchange rates codes, right? ඒක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න, ගොඩක් ළමයි සමහරලාට මේක පටලවනවා exchange rate එක ලියද්දි, right? So please don't write exchange rate like this, right? මේකම එහෙම ලියන්න එපා. Okay, dollar to rupees 334.7, oh sorry, 47 something. And don't write this like again rupee in terms of $0.0029, right? Don't write this. Why? Because always in a foreign currency quotation, right? Foreign currency quotation, we always write rupees in terms of dollar, right? That means right hand side has to be representing one unit of currency, right? This value has to be always one unit of currency. Right hand side representing a unit of currency, right? If it is a direct quotation, if it is a direct exchange rate, your right hand side representing a foreign currency, right? But if it is an indirect quotation or indirect exchange rate, it should be your right hand side representing a domestic currency. Please remember that point very clearly. Okay, direct one, right hand side should be foreign currency. Indirect one, right hand side should be a domestic currency. Right? I'm repeatedly telling this. Why? Because I see in last couple of years, majority of the students did not identify the way of writing this exchange rate quotation. So it should, if you should be shame if you cannot write the exchange rate quotation in a professional manner, even you are following international finance. And therefore, please identify the way it's writing. Right. Now, you also can see the American terms and European term. Right. So it is, we can see it like this. Okay. So don't write like that, but that for the example. So you can see euro term, euro, it's equal US dollar 1.2714, or you can see US dollar $1 equal euro 0.8214. Right. So this form of quotation, as I mentioned you earlier also, this form of quotation, it's depend on where the main party considered as a home. Right. In our term, the rupee is our home currency, but US citizen, dollar is his or her home currency. Therefore, so based on the country, based on the home currency, the direct and indirect quotation going to be changed. Right. So that is the basic idea behind exchange rate quotations. Okay. Right. Then let's look at how banks express exchange rates. Okay, let's look at how banks express exchange rates. Now you can see here, normally banks, or we call interbank quotations. That means bank announce their quotations. Right? Bank also can buy foreign currencies from other banks. Right? Bank also can sell foreign currencies to other banks. Right? So that's why we call it as an interbank quotation. Banku atara ගොමාරුවෙන් අනුපාතය තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ express කරන්නේ. So that interbank quotations are given as bid and ask price. Right? අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අර buying and selling කියන එක නෙමෙයි මෙතන foreign currencies foreign exchange වල පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ bid and ask price. Right? So bid is the price where one currency at which dealer will buy with another currency. That is the buying rate. Bid එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ buying rate එක. Right? And the ask is the price at which dealer will sell other currency. Right? So I called it, I show it, I also explained that in previously, right? So normally we call it as a buy and selling rate, but here in the terms using in international finance, it is called bid rate. Right? Normally bid rate means our buying rate. And we are also called, it is an ask rate. Ask rate is the selling rate. Right? So bid rate means where the bank is ready to buy foreign currency from outsider or other party. And ask rate is where bank is willing to sell their currency to the other party, that means outsider. Normally bid rate is low, ask rate is high. Okay, so dealers bid or buy at one price and ask or sell at a slightly higher price, making their profit from spread between buying and selling price. This is where we normally call profit. That is where we can earn profit in foreign currency dealing. Right? We buy the foreign currency at a low price and we try to sell it to the outside at a higher price. Yeah, that's why it has a difference between buying and selling rate. Otherwise, what is the purpose of having those bid and ask rates? Right? We might have in only exchange rate. කෙනෙකුට හිතන්න පුළුවන් මොකටද මේ දෙකක් පෙන්නන්නේ? ඔක exchange rate එක රුපියල 334ක් ඩොලර් එකකට සමානයි කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. No, this is also trading. And people are buying foreign currency and selling it. Right? So then person who try to buy it, they try to get the currencies at a lower price. When he try to sell it, he try to sell it at a maximum high price. Right? So the difference between these bid and ask prices, bids and ask rates indicate how far our foreign exchange market is efficiently or smoothly make their function. And if you remember in our first discussion also, I told you that market efficiency is one of the things we dealing in for international finance. Other thing is arbitrage, other thing is market efficiency. Right? So how we decide market is efficient, as far as we need to concern about the spread or deviation between bid and ask price. Right? If we can see only slight difference between bid and ask rate, that indicate that markets are smoothly running. That means efficiently running. Buying and selling rate එක ලොකු පරතරයක් නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක වගේම සප්ලයි එකත් බොහොම වේගෙන් සිදු වෙනවා. එතකොට අර ලොකු ગેප් එකක් තියන්න බෑ. සප්ලයි එක එනකොටම ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකත් එක්කම සප්ලයි එක එනවා. එතකොට අර ලොකු මේ ප්‍රයිස් ඩිෆරන්ස් එකක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ බයින් and selling price වල. But if you are having very considerable gap in between demand and supply, right? We will see the demand and supply in later, right? But if you are having very considerable gap between bid and ask rate, so that indicate the foreign exchange market is not efficiently or not smoothly make their function. බිඩ් එකයි ආස්ක් එකයි අතර ලොකු පරතරයක් එනවා කියලා කියන්නේ සමහරලාට ඩිමාන්ඩ් එක වැඩි සප්ලයි එකට වඩා, සමහරලාට සප්ලයි එක වැඩි ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකට වඩා. So that is not good in foreign exchange market. Right? We always try to keep the foreign exchange rate with a very low spread between bid and ask price. Right? So profit can be made when there is a large gap in between buying and selling rates. That's what's happening in Sri Lanka right now. Okay, so this is the way we normally writing bid and ask price. This is a normal way writing, right? Bid and ask. Now this is a bid price. So this is a bid price mean the bank willing to buy price. This is a bid price mean bank willing to buy price. Then that indicate you can sell your foreign currency to the bank. And this is what we call ask price. Ask price mean bank willing to sell. When bank willing to sell mean you can buy foreign currency at this price from the bank. Right? Therefore, don't take confused with these two different points. Okay. Now, normally in exchange rate, what we see is this is the bid price normally given at first. Normally that is a low price. And this is the ask price given at second. That is a high price. Right? Sometimes it going to be changed, right? Based on the demand and supply of foreign currency in the market. Right? We cannot expect that same thing like this. But generally, this is happening. Right? So this is a bid rate. The bid rate means the bank willing to buy foreign currency from customer. That means it is your selling rate. Now, ask price is where bank willing to sell their foreign currencies to the customer. So that is your buying rate. Okay. So therefore, don't get confused with these two things. Right. Okay. Now, bid price, bid rate is a bank or financial institution buying rate. Banks buying rate. On the other hand, we can say it as customers, selling rate. Okay, that is customer selling rate. Right? And ask price or ask rate equal bank's selling rate. On the other way around, customers buying rate of foreign currency and the bank's buying rate or customer selling rate of foreign currency. This is a difference. Okay, that is a difference. Remember that. Right. So that is what we are expressing in here. That is what we are expressing in here. This is a buying rate, this is ask rate, and this is a bid rate, and this is a ask rate. Now, other thing you need to remember, okay, the way writing, the writing style, as we identified previously, how to write foreign exchange rates. Right? So normally this is a way bank announce bid and ask rate. මේ මෙහෙම තමයි බැංකුව announce කරන්නේ bid එකයි ask rate එකයි. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ දිග ක්‍රමය නෙමෙයි. Right? This is a layman word we know, but this is a way professionally they announcing. Now this is a bid rate. Normally foreign exchange rate are pronouncing with the 4 digits, 4 decimal places. Right? The text of document, any kind of exchange rate may be stated at the midpoint of quote. Right? So we call it this as a 4 digits. But when we are expressing the ask rate, we don't write the lengthy word. We only write last 2 digits. Right? So last 2 digits indicate that it should be right 1.2178. Right? These last 2 digits, they represent it as ask rate. So it is our duty to know if it is the buying rate, 1.2178, and this should be 1.2178. 70 is the buying rate, and 78 should be the ask rate. Right? So that's the way we normally take it. Right? So this is the representing of that last digit. Right? Normally we don't write like this. Okay. Now for an example, if you are taking something like that, here we take rupees 334.7851 dash, right? Dash, what we call 62. Okay, so then this is indicating as, right, this is indicating as bid rate equal rupees 334.7851 per dollar, and ask rate equal rupees 334.7862 per dollar. This is the way we are writing bid and ask rate general way, but this is the way we are expressing it in the bid and ask rates. Right? Therefore, please consider them as bid and ask quotations. Okay? Right. That's the way we are writing. Then look at the other main component, how to calculate this spread. Now, previously I told you that if you are having the significant difference between these bid and ask prices or bid and ask rates, we can make profit. We can make profit. That means we can buy foreign currency at a lower price and sell it at a higher price. So that difference between the bid and ask, we call it as a bid and ask spread. Right? So based on this bid and ask spread, we can confirm that whether foreign exchange market is running efficiently or not. Okay, so how we are going to calculate bid and ask spread? That's we are going to calculate bid and ask spread. So the calculation formula is you have to deduct bid rate from ask rate, and divide that difference using ask rate. That means formula is ask rate minus bid rate divided by ask rate. Right? So for an example, you have in 2 examples given. That is, first one is a British pound with the US dollar. So per British pound, US dollar we are receiving 1.52. That means bank willing to buy 1 UK pound by paying $1.25. As well as bank willing to sell UK pound with the price of $1.60. Then how we are calculate the bid and ask spread? Ask rate is 1.60 minus bid rate is 1.52 divided by 1.60. Then you will get the spread. Now the other example also given, you can refer with the slides. Okay, so we identify them as a bid and ask spread. Now if it is getting more than 10% or something, right, that indicate the market is not running efficiently. There is a huge difference. There is a significant difference between buying and selling rate, indicate that there is a significant differences in demand and supply of foreign currency. Okay, so therefore, we need to know about what will happen to the demand and supply of foreign currency. So before that, before moving to that point, right, let's talk about what are the factors that could be affect to this bid and ask spread, right? There may be some reason why banks are having given low bid rate to the high ask rate, right? One is the order cost. Okay, so you might be having some processing order, there may be having some clearing cost and other things when we are doing the transaction. So order cost can be incorporated or included, and that would be result to having bid and ask spread. Another thing is inventory cost, right? And the competition also having there. Some trading currencies, they are having high demand, and some trading currencies, they are having low demand, like Sri Lankan rupee. Okay, based on that also bid and ask spread occurring. And the volume, the trading volume. Okay, so if you are having high trading volume for US dollar, and if you are having low trading volume for Australian dollar, so that also going to be affected to the bid and ask spread. And the last thing is currency risk, right? So Sri Lankan rupee now, it's identified as a risk currency, right? Very low value currency. In that case also, it influences to the demand and supply of that particular currency, and based on the demand and supply change, the bid and ask price going to be spread more. Okay, so that's the thing we need to discuss in the first session, first part in the session number 2. So next one, we will discuss about the cross exchange rate. That is another terms of expressing foreign exchange rate.